Welcome back to Notes from the Crucible. This time we're going to be talking about a pair of essays that you don't find very often in management textbooks. We're going to be talking about failure, and then we're going to be talking about forgiveness.
Yeah, they're not exactly chapter 1 and 2 in Management 101, are they? In fact, this language that doesn't show up very much in the lexicon of business, but I think is hugely important to engage both ideas because they are essential to our humanity. This is who we are.
Right.
Everyone fails. Everyone fails big once in a while. And everyone needs forgiveness. Boss, employees, everybody. So I think it's useful to think ahead about this and make it a part of your conversations with people. We'll talk more in a minute about why that's so important. But failure gets a bad rap. I think in more recent days, as innovation ecosystems have developed in business and industry, we know more about failure as a part of the life cycle of development. So you hear people talking about failing quickly, that is innovating to failure and then changing the design. And
That's
so
right. Yeah, that's a positive thing almost.
It is, and it actually happens in everything. No design is perfect. All design is redesign of something that could have been better to begin with, or there would be nothing to do. So just accepting that that failure is a part of the ecosystem and anticipating it in ways that you can manage the risks associated with failure without squelching the creativity of the people around you and in yourself. Failure is the tuition we pay. It's the tuition we pay for learning. It's okay to fail if you learn from it. It's not okay to fail and blame, ignore, hide, repress, all those sorts of things. Failure is an important part of the process. And I use an extreme example in the essay. It comes from the oil field industry from my time in Houston, Texas, where failure is enormously expensive and completely expected. So learn a little bit from that and think about how failure in your work might be your best opportunities to transform your place. The flip of that is how you deal with forgiveness, because most of the time we're normally we're inclined to approach things as perfectionists. It's okay for me to fail, but it's not okay for you to fail, or it's okay for my friends' direct reports to fail, but not my direct reports. We have a higher standard. Right. Forgiveness comes with this, the notion that everyone makes big mistakes from time to time, that human beings are deeply flawed. It's to be human is to be flawed. We're gonna wreck ourselves from time to time, shipwreck, and something has to be done about it. And sometimes, when that happens, people are so wrecked they can't stay with the organization. But banishing people at every failure is also a losing strategy for a variety of reasons. So figuring out how do we acknowledge failure, confess it, deal with it, set people on a path of healing and improvement, growth, and become stronger. I have a singer-songwriter friend who writes marvelous songs named David Wilcox, and one of the ones I like from early in his career was about a broken bone, and bones don't heal from the two tips of the broken fragments. They heal all the way across, all at the same time. And the section that's healed is stronger than the old bone. That's a kind of biological forgiveness, I guess. So there's a way of dealing with forgiveness, dealing honestly with people that doesn't just blame and banish. And it grows pretty deep strength in your organization if you know how to practice it. Perhaps most importantly for leaders is that we require forgiveness. Every one of you in the room will require forgiveness at your work, some very often. As a very senior leader in an enormous organization, I ran a college for a while that had 75,000 students, and I chaired a healthcare system that had 45,000 employees. These are big places.
Right.
And we make decisions there of a certain character. Excuse me. When a problem can be solved in a win-win fashion, it's usually solved deep in the organization. When a problem requires a win-lose solution, it comes up the organization to upper middle management often. HR might be involved, whatever. But when a problem is lose-lose, that's what gets to the senior leadership. And I had many lose-lose decisions as the senior leader. Took me a long time to get used to this. And when I make a lose-lose decision, I know no matter what decision I make, I'm hurting somebody. And I'm hurting the people who love that somebody. But the decision has to be made. And so you make it. And if you can't forgive yourself and hope that they can forgive you, then you become paralyzed over time and you stop making good decisions. Right. So it's very important to know that your people require a kind of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not the opposite of accountability. It's accountability with love. And we require forgiveness. Those are the two sides of the coin.
Yeah. So what are some questions that our audience here can ask as they kind of deal with these issues? How can they practice this kind of thing?
Yeah. So I would suggest, going back to the theme of story, that you revisit a time of failure in your organization or in your role. What happened? How did failure occur? How did the organization respond to failure? What did you learn from the failure? I've often thought I learned more from my failures than I did my successes. What was the highest tuition you paid, and was the learning worth it? And sharing a couple of those stories wouldn't be a bad idea, both personal and organizational. That's on the failure side. And how do you plan for failure? What are you doing today to plan for future failures? They're guaranteed to happen in a way that liberates your organization from fear. It doesn't clamp down just in a perfectionist way. Right. On the forgiveness side, I would ask you to think about what you need forgiveness for, whether you've forgiven yourself from some hard decisions you've had to make, and how inside your organization you can find the wherewithal in places like HR and legal services and risk management and so on to challenge the question, are we treating this person humanely? Is this failure so great that we can't rehabilitate it? Has the person owned the problem? Have we owned the problem together? How was I in the problem? In any failure in an organization, the leadership owns a piece of it. That doesn't mean you just have to deal with it. It means you helped cause it. Where am I in the problem statement? These are useful questions, and it's best to visit them in a real situation. So go back to some failure, something that required forgiveness in your organizational life, and ask those kinds of questions.